What's up, guys, and welcome back to Gabe Music. Today we're taking a look at a hip-hop trap instrumental I released as a bonus song a week ago or so, and so I'm going to go through a couple different sections of the track, and so here's the first one right here. And let's start off with the drums. So let's go into the 808 style bass, and I say 808 style because it's not actually an 808 kick sample or an 808 sub bass sample. It's an ES2 patch, and I downloaded this for free, so I'm going to put a link in the description to download this patch because it's really nice. So let me show this here, and I have a fair amount of processing on it, so I'll take all that off and then add it back in. So we start off with the original patch. Then I add a bit crusher, distortion, and some EQ. And then layered with that synth patch is a kick drum, and this kick is from Logic's built-in drum machine designer. So here's that. So it's a shorter, punchier kick, and that layers nicely with the bassier, more sustained bass. So we got that. On top of that, we got a snap. This one I barely have any processing on at all. It's just a little high boost, and that's it. It already had the reverb printed onto it, a sample from another guy's song that he released a sample pack of. So that's a snap. We got the 808s. Finally, a hi-hat. As you may notice, there's some panning going on here. So the 808 hi-hat is panned slightly to the right, and the snap is panned slightly to the left to add some separation, have them balance each other out. Then we got a little impact sound. And one thing I do a lot on my impacts is I have a little crossfade. You can't really see it here, but I have a little crossfade so that the transient of the kick is the main transient, and that doesn't interfere with the boom effect. So that's what we got so far, and that's really carrying a lot of the track. Got the synth, little ARP, and here's what it originally sounded like. Except this element was way too in your face and present, and so I did some EQ to send it to push it to the background a bit. So we got that. Both remove some bass and some high end, so it just keeps the mids, some upper mids mostly, and then some reverb. Push it to the background a bit and give it a little more space. And that's just one chord being arpeggiated. And then we got this little hit here. That's actually a sample. And I've got some reverb on it, so here's what it sounded like before. Too short, so I added a nice space reverb. And that draws it out nicely. So let me just build this part up. It's pretty sparse, really. And then finally, this trombone element. Then we got an 808 snare roll, and this is just, I brought this into a sample into the built-in sampler in Logic, and then played out a pattern on the MIDI keyboard. And that plays nicely with the roll of the hi-hat. And then finally a riser, which, let me find a full instance of it here. This is also a sample I downloaded for free off the internet, and this is a very, very common element in a lot of hip-hop and trap, and so this second part is just it chopped up. And then we go into the next section where we got the snare. And one of the big differences between the last section and this section is the more presence of the trombone effect. that starts off just a little bit over here and then comes in full force over here, comes in full on. And pretty much everything else is the same except for the snare and this little hey element. So here's the snare soloed. And I had to do a pretty extreme amount of EQ on it because it had this weird high mids buildup that was absolutely piercing and sounded awful, especially on other... I did some referencing on a cheaper pair of earbuds and some speakers, and that revealed, even when I thought I'd EQ'd it enough, it revealed that there was still this just biting upper mid element that I had to cut more. So reference on other systems, that'll reveal problems you might not hear on your main listening system. So the snare and the little hey, and that's panned to the left a bit. And that is the basis of the track, and it goes on. And over here, added in a saw in this next section with the double time hi-hats. So we got it. And that's playing the exact same notes as the 808 bass. And so that just builds on it more. So here's without it. Here's with. It's subtle. It just lifts the song to another level of energy that it needed. And then for the double time hi-hat, I duplicated the track and just turned it down a bit so that having twice the hi-hat would not completely take over the track. Got the riser. And then finally I added a couple more pads in this section over here. So we got... This is the same saw element. And then... And one thing arrangement-wise that you might notice is that, or you might not have noticed, and that's why I'm going to point it out. So it starts off playing one chord. That's just one chord that's arpeggiated. And all throughout this first section, it's still just one chord, the 808 bass basically playing one note. And then that changes once we get to the breakdown. And so you have the one chord, one chord, one chord, one chord, all the way over to here. And then I finally add an actual progression. And so that keeps the song interesting, keeps it moving along, kind of it progresses. And then so in this final section, it finally has a chord progression. Now I have the 808 bass changed to also be following the chord progression. So it just keeps the song moving along nicely. And for this section, I actually dropped out the arpeggiator for the most part. I have a high cut filter on it, so that drops out, and the pads take the main center stage here. And then I'm bringing this in slowly. So this comes in, and then finally we drop down to a calmer section before the song ends. And I've got a bit more of a high cut on the ARP at this point than on earlier in the song because it's supposed to be a little bit more chill. And this is probably the most sparse section of the song. There's no other pads, saws, or anything like that. Very empty and open. Alrighty, that is it for today. Be sure to subscribe for more electronic music and audio geek videos. I have quite a bit of music coming in the next couple of months, so be sure to subscribe for that if you haven't already, and stay tuned for that because it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm Gabe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.